The colony burned beneath a sky that had never known war. Flames consumed the prefabricated structures while families screamed and ran toward the landing pads. Commander Roth watched from his viewport as the punishment proceeded exactly according to protocol. 3 late tribute payments meant complete destruction. No exceptions, no mercy. This was how the galactic sovereignty maintained order across 847 star systems. Status report. Roth demanded. His weapons officer consulted the tactical display. All military installations neutralized. Civilian population fleeing to evacuation zones. Estimated casualties, 42,000. Roth nodded without emotion. The number meant nothing to him. He had overseen 17 such operations in his career, some with higher death tolls, some with lower. The mathematics of fear were simple. Terrorize one world, and 10 others would comply without resistance. Efficiency through brutality. This was the sovereignty way. The mining colony had been home to 200,000 beings from the Tauran species, peaceful traders who worked asteroid fields for rare minerals. They had fallen behind on their tribute by mere weeks. Economic hardship from equipment failures. They had begged for extensions, requested negotiations, sent dozens of diplomatic messages. The sovereignty response came in the form of 12 warships and orbital bombardment. Now their world was ash and their people were corpses. Sir, shall we proceed to the next target? The navigation officer asked, before Roth could respond. A priority transmission arrived from Dominion Prime, the capital world where the High Council ruled with absolute authority. Roth accepted the communication. High Arbiter Kern's face filled the screen. Angular features, cold eyes, the expression of someone who had never known doubt. Commander Roth, your punitive mission is canceled. Return to Dominion Prime immediately. We have a new situation that requires experienced officers. Acknowledged. High Arbiter, may I inquire about the nature of the situation? Kern's expression darkened. 6 months ago, we made contact with a new species calling themselves humans. Their home system. Sol. They were given standard subjugation terms, 40% resource tribute, complete military disarmament, surrender of all territorial claims beyond their home world. Roth waited, sensing there was more. They asked for time to consider. Kern continued. This was unusual but not unprecedented. We granted them 60 days. That deadline passed 4 months ago. They have not responded. They have not attacked. They simply ignore all communications. Perhaps they do not understand our strength, Roth suggested. That is our assessment, Kern replied. I am assembling a punitive fleet, 12 heavy cruisers. Your presence is required as intelligence officer. We depart in 3 days. Prepare your analysis of human capabilities based on all available data. The transmission ended. Roth immediately pulled up the files on humanity. What he found was unremarkable. A species that had achieved faster-than-light travel only 40 years ago. Their military consisted of patrol ships and defensive satellites, primitive energy weapons. No shielding technology worth mentioning. Their largest vessel was smaller than a sovereignty corvette. Politically, they were fragmented, dozens of nations constantly bickering. No unified command structure. By every metric, humans should have surrendered immediately. Their delay made no strategic sense. 3 days later, Roth stood aboard the flagship of Admiral Gravan, a career officer known for his impatience and love of overwhelming force. The fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, each capable of reducing a continent to rubble, more than sufficient for intimidating a primitive species into compliance. The journey through hyperspace took 3 weeks. Roth spent the time reviewing intelligence, searching for any indication of hidden human capabilities. He found nothing. Their technology was at least 2 centuries behind sovereignty standards. Their industrial capacity was limited to their own solar system. They had no allies, no defensive pacts, no reason to believe they could resist. Yet something nagged at him. Species who knew they were outmatched typically responded with either immediate surrender or desperate negotiation. Silence was unusual. It suggested either complete ignorance of their situation or confidence based on unknown factors. The fleet emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. The gas giant dominated the viewport. Beyond it lay Earth, the human homeworld, a blue sphere covered in water and clouds. Roth's sensors swept the system, detecting the expected defensive satellites and patrol ships, nothing that could threaten even a single sovereignty cruiser. Admiral Gravan wasted no time. Broadcast standard surrender terms. They have 48 hours to comply, or we begin corrective measures. The message went out across all frequencies, demanding immediate capitulation. Roth monitored human communications, expecting panic or frantic diplomatic activity. Instead, the channels remained strangely quiet, occasional military chatter. Nothing urgent. Almost as if they had expected this. 24 hours passed. No response. Gravan grew irritated, ordering weapons systems armed, preparing for the demonstration that would break human resistance. Roth reviewed his intelligence reports again, searching for anything he might have missed. Then the response came. A human appeared on screen, middle-aged, calm expression, wearing a simple uniform without excessive decoration. I am Ambassador Williams, representing the unified governments of Earth and her colonies. We have reviewed your terms thoroughly. After careful consideration, our answer is no. Your fleet will withdraw from our system immediately. This is not a negotiation. The bridge fell silent. Roth had never heard anyone speak to the sovereignty with such casual dismissal. Gravan's face turned crimson with rage. Do they not understand what we can do to them? The admiral snarled. Sir, recommend we proceed carefully, Roth said. Their confidence suggests. Their confidence is ignorance, Gravan snapped. Prepare 6 cruisers for close engagement. We will disable their largest vessel. Drag it back to their homeworld as a burning example. That will teach them respect. As the deadline approached, Roth's sensors detected movement. A single ship emerged from behind Earth's moon. His instruments struggled to process what they were seeing. The vessel was massive, dwarfing even sovereignty dreadnoughts. Its hull was smooth and angular, no visible weapons ports, no obvious propulsion system. It simply floated there in high orbit. Waiting, Gravan laughed. One ship. They send one ship to face 12 of ours. Prepare to teach them the cost of defiance. But Roth felt cold dread spreading through his chest, because his sensors were screaming. Warnings about energy readings they could not identify, about technology that should not exist, about a species that perhaps had very good reasons for their confidence. The human ship broadcast a single word, negative. Then everything changed. 6 sovereignty cruisers closed on the human vessel like predators surrounding wounded prey, their weapons charged, targeting systems locked. Admiral Gravan smiled from his command chair, confident in the superiority that had crushed 1,000 rebellions. Commander Roth gripped the edge of his console, watching sensor readings that defied everything he knew about physics. The human ship, designated UHSV Retribution, remained perfectly still. No evasive maneuvers, no defensive posture, just floating in space as if the approaching warships were nothing more than curiosity. Roth's instruments detected energy building within the vessel, but the signature was unlike anything in sovereignty databases. Not fusion, not antimatter, something else entirely. Fire warning shots. Gravan ordered, show them we are serious. 3 cruisers unleashed particle beams, brilliant streams of deadly energy that had melted mountains on a dozen worlds. The beams lanced across space toward Retribution. Roth held his breath, waiting for the inevitable impact. Then nothing. The beams simply stopped, frozen in space 3 kilometers from the human ship. Held in place by invisible forces, the energy dissipated harmlessly, absorbed into some kind of field that Roth's sensors could not even detect properly. His tactical officer stared at the display, mouth open in shock. That's impossible, the weapons officer whispered. Retribution finally responded, not with weapons, but with a pulse of electromagnetic energy so precisely calibrated that Roth's instruments barely registered it before the damage was done. Across all 6 approaching cruisers, every system failed simultaneously. Shields collapsed, weapons went offline, Propulsion died. Life support flickered but remained active. 12,000 sovereignty personnel sat in darkness. Their ships transformed into drifting coffins. Status report. Gravan roared. All 6 vessels report complete systems failure. Communications answered. Engineering teams cannot explain the mechanism. Every circuit is fried. Every relay is burned. But life support functions are intact. Sir, they disabled our ships without killing anyone. Roth understood the implication immediately. This level of precision was beyond anything the sovereignty possessed. To disable an entire warship without casualties required technology that could target individual systems. Calculate exact energy requirements. Execute perfectly across 6 simultaneous targets. The humans had not attacked. They had performed surgery. A transmission came from Retribution. A human male appeared on screen. Wearing a simple uniform with minimal insignia, his expression was neutral, almost apologetic. "I am Captain Davis, commanding officer of the UHSV Retribution. Your ships are disabled, but your crews are safe. You have 60 minutes to begin recovery operations and withdraw from our system. We have no desire to harm you, but we will defend our home. Choose wisely." Gravan's face went purple with rage. "Fire all weapons. Every ship. Concentrate fire on that arrogant." "Sir," Roth interrupted. "Recommend immediate withdrawal. We are facing technology we do not understand. Further engagement could result, and I will not run from primitives." Gravan snarled. "All ships. Maximum firepower. Destroy that vessel." The remaining 6 cruisers opened fire. Missiles streaked through space. Energy weapons blazed. Kinetic rounds flew at relativistic speeds. Enough. Destructive power to sterilize a continent. Roth watched the attack unfold, already knowing what would happen. Retribution's point defense activated. Beams of coherent light, so precise they seemed to cut reality itself. Every missile, every energy blast, every kinetic round simply ceased to exist. Intercepted with accuracy that approached 100%, the human ship did not even need shields. It simply deleted incoming threats with casual efficiency. Then Retribution moved, the acceleration should have torn the ship apart. 50G turns executed without visible strain. The vessel crossed millions of kilometers in seconds, maneuvering around the sovereignty fleet like a dancer among statues. Roth's sensors struggled to track movements that violated every principle of inertial physics. Weapon ports opened along Retribution's hull, not the massive cannons of sovereignty design, but thousands of small apertures. From each emerged what appeared to be drones, tiny craft no larger than a human torso. They swarmed outward in coordinated clouds, moving with purpose and intelligence. The drones reached the 6 remaining cruisers within minutes, attaching themselves to critical systems with magnetic clamps. Roth watched his own ship's hull on external cameras as dozens of the devices secured themselves to engine housings, weapon mounts, shield generators, communication arrays. Then they activated. Every system on every ship shut down simultaneously. Complete power failure across the entire fleet. Backup systems tried to engage, but found themselves locked out. The drones had taken control at the most fundamental level. Even emergency protocols were frozen. Roth sat in darkness, emergency lighting providing the only illumination. Listening to the panicked voices of his crew, Captain Davis's voice filled every ship via emergency channels. "Admiral Gravan, your fleet is now completely disabled. All 12 vessels are under our control. We can restore basic functions remotely, but only if you agree to withdraw immediately. We are offering you safe passage home. Take it." Gravan had no choice. Defeat was absolute and undeniable. "We accept your terms," he said through clenched teeth. "Restoring minimum power now," Davis replied. Across the fleet, lights flickered back on. Basic propulsion systems came online, enough to navigate but not to fight. The drones remained attached, silent guardians ensuring compliance. Gravan ordered the fleet to withdraw. The journey home would take 6 weeks on emergency power. 6 weeks for 80,000 crew members to contemplate their humiliation. As the sovereignty fleet limped away, Roth compiled his report. The humans possessed electromagnetic weapons of surgical precision, point defense systems with perfect accuracy, propulsion technology that defied known physics, drone swarms with advanced AI. Most importantly, they showed complete restraint. Zero casualties despite having the capability to destroy the entire fleet. This was not a primitive species lucky enough to win a skirmish. This was an advanced civilization that had been hiding its true capabilities, waiting, watching, studying the sovereignty before revealing their strength. When Roth's report reached Dominion Prime, High Arbiter Kern read it 3 times, refusing to believe what the data showed. The sovereignty had ruled through fear for 3 centuries. No one had challenged their dominance successfully. Now a species they had dismissed as primitive had defeated. A punitive fleet without firing a single lethal shot. Kern convened an emergency council session. Some members advocated for immediate negotiation. Others demanded overwhelming retaliation. The High Arbiter listened to the debates, his expression growing darker. Finally, he spoke. Ready the Dread Fleet. If 12 cruisers were insufficient, we will send 24 dreadnoughts. Humanity will learn that defiance has consequences. Prepare for full mobilization. This insult cannot stand, Roth heard. The orders with growing dread. The sovereignty was about to escalate, committing their most powerful weapons to crush a species that had already demonstrated technological superiority. Pride was leading them toward disaster. But he was a soldier. Orders were orders. Within days, the Dread Fleet began assembly. Massive vessels, each the size of city, crewed by thousands, armed with weapons that could crack planets. The largest deployment in sovereignty history, and somewhere in Sol System. Humanity watched and prepared. 2 months of preparation culminated in the largest military deployment the sovereignty had launched in living memory. 24 dreadnoughts assembled at Dominion Prime, each vessel a monument to the Empire's power. Crews totaling over 80,000 personnel, weapons capable of reducing worlds to rubble. Admiral Venn commanded from the flagship Eternal Dominion. A veteran of 17 planetary subjugations, his record was perfect. Every world he visited either surrendered or burned. Commander Roth stood in the intelligence section, reviewing updated reports on human capabilities. The data from the previous engagement suggested technology far beyond sovereignty standards. But Venn dismissed such concerns. Numbers would prevail. Overwhelming force always did. This was the fundamental truth of warfare. The journey to Sol took 3 weeks through hyperspace. During that time, Roth noticed something troubling in his intelligence feeds. Subjugated species across sovereignty space were watching this deployment with unusual interest. Unauthorized communications increased by 400%. Resistance cells that had been dormant for years were activating. Whispers spread through dozens of worlds. If humans could defy the sovereignty, perhaps others could too. The Dread Fleet emerged from hyperspace near Neptune. Sensors immediately detected 7 human vessels waiting at the Kuiper Belt's edge. Roth's instruments analyzed the new ships. Identical in design to Retribution. Same energy signatures. Same impossible capabilities. Humanity had not been idle during the past 2 months. Venn smiled at the tactical display. 7 ships against 24. They're either brave or foolish. Broadcast surrender terms. Standard protocol. They have 24 hours. Captain Davis responded within minutes. His image appearing on every Dreadfleet screen. Admiral Venn, turn your fleet around. This is your only warning. We will not repeat ourselves. Venn laughed. Actually laughed, the sound echoing through the bridge. They warn us. Launch all fighter wings. 600 craft should overwhelm their defenses. Show them what real military power looks like. Sovereignty fighters scream toward the human formation. Pilots confident in their training and numbers. Roth watched the engagement unfold on tactical displays, already predicting the outcome. The 7 human warships released drone swarms. Not thousands this time, tens of thousands. They moved like living things, coordinated through quantum-linked networks. Each drone a node in a distributed intelligence. The swarms intercepted the fighter wings with mechanical precision. Electromagnetic pulses disabled fighters without destroying them. Within 5 minutes, all 600 Sovereignty craft were drifting, pilots alive but helpless. Ven's confidence cracked. All dreadnoughts. Open fire. Main batteries. Maximum power. Vaporize those ships. The bombardment was apocalyptic. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic kill vehicles, energy. Sufficient to glass a continent unleashed across millions of kilometers. Roth's instruments detected exotic phenomena. Space itself bending under the assault. Then the human ships activated their shields. Not conventional energy barriers, but gravitational distortion fields. Incoming fire curved around the vessels. Redirected through warped space-time. Some attacks actually reflected back toward their sources. 3 Sovereignty cruisers were hit by their own weapons. Shields overloaded. Hull breaches killed 17 crew members. Roth realized the terrible truth. Humans could have reflected all the fire, could have destroyed the entire Dreadfleet with its own weapons. Instead, they allowed most attacks to dissipate harmlessly. They were still showing restraint, still trying to avoid casualties, even as the Sovereignty tried to kill them. The 7 human warships began to move. Acceleration curves that should be physically impossible. 40G turned sustained without apparent strain. They wove through the Dreadfleet formation like needles through cloth. Untouchable. Unstoppable. Making the massive Sovereignty vessels look slow and clumsy by comparison. Then all 7 ships activated their electromagnetic disruption systems simultaneously. The pulse cascaded through the Dreadfleet like a wave, but this time the effect was modulated, carefully calibrated. Shields failed, weapons went offline, propulsion died, but life support remained active. Emergency systems functional. The humans had learned from the first engagement, refined their techniques, made the subjugation surgical. Within 20 minutes, 24 dreadnoughts sat dead in space. 80,000 crew members alive but defeated. The most powerful military force the Sovereignty could deploy had been neutralized without a single deliberate human casualty. Captain Davis broadcast to the disabled fleet, "Admiral Ven, your people are safe. We are restoring minimal power for life support and navigation. You will withdraw from Sol system immediately. Return to your leadership with this message. Earth seeks no conflict, but we will never submit to tyranny." Ven had no words. Pride shattered. Military doctrine proven useless. He accepted the terms because no alternative existed. The Dreadfleet began its slow journey home. Emergency power meant 3 months of travel. 3 months for crews to process their total defeat. News of the engagement spread despite Sovereignty censorship attempts. Subjugated species monitored. Quantum communications. Intercepted tactical data. Analyzed the results. Ambassador Lyra of the Felnari received confirmation through her intelligence network. Humans had defeated the Dreadfleet without casualties. Her people had suffered under Sovereignty rule for 80 years. Hope, long dormant, began to stir. Across Sovereignty space, resistance movements activated. Weapons caches were opened. Communication networks established. If humanity could stand against the Empire, perhaps freedom was possible. High Arbiter Kern received preliminary reports in his council chambers, refused to believe the initial data, demanded verification. When confirmation arrived, his face went pale, the Dreadfleet defeated, the Empire's ultimate weapon neutralized, and worse, the defeat was spreading through subjugated populations like wildfire. The council convened in emergency session. Arguments raged for hours. Some members advocated immediate peace negotiations. Others wanted tactical nuclear strikes, biological weapons, anything to regain control. Kern listened in silence, rage building behind cold eyes. Finally, he spoke. "Since conventional military forces failed, we will use terror, mobilize the subjugation corps, target humanity's weakest colony, take hostages. If they value life so highly, we will use that against them." Roth heard the orders with mounting horror. "High Arbiter, respectfully, targeting civilians will break their resistance." Kern interrupted. "We have ruled through fear for 3 centuries. One more application of terror will restore order. Identify their most vulnerable settlement. Prepare to take the entire population hostage. Intelligence quickly identified the target. Kepler Station, a mining colony orbiting a distant asteroid. Population 47,000. Minimal defenses. Maximum vulnerability. Perfect for demonstrating sovereignty resolve. 12 fast cruisers were selected. Crews from the Subjugation Corps. Troops trained in occupation and population control. They departed secretly, taking routes that avoided human sensor networks. Moving quietly through hyperspace, Roth watched the fleet leave, dread settling in his stomach. The sovereignty was about to cross a line that could not be uncrossed. Targeting civilians would prove humans right, demonstrate the Empire's brutality, justify every act of resistance. He whispered to himself, knowing no one could hear. This is a mistake. 3 weeks later, the Subjugation Corps arrived at Kepler Station. Kepler Station hung peacefully in the void, a collection of habitation modules clustered around mining facilities. 47,000 civilians lived and worked there, families who had traveled from Earth seeking opportunity among the asteroids. Children attended school in the education wing. Engineers maintained the ore processors. Farmers tended hydroponic gardens. Life proceeded with the quiet rhythm of frontier existence. Commander Grell watched the station through his view screen, calculating approach. Vectors. His Subjugation Corps troops were already armed and ready. 2,000 shock infantry trained in population control, veterans of a dozen brutal occupations. They knew how to break resistance, how to make examples that terrified entire populations into compliance. The 12 cruisers dropped from hyperspace without warning. Communications arrays were destroyed in the first volley. Kepler Station's small security force, 200 lightly armed officers, stood no chance against professional military assault. Within 6 hours, the entire colony was under sovereignty control. Civilians herded into assembly halls. Governor Lisa dragged from her office in restraints. Grell established command in the station's central hub, surrounded by tactical displays and communication equipment. He initiated contact with Earth Defense Command, wanting them to see what happened when humanity defied the sovereignty. I am Commander Grell, authorized representative of the galactic sovereignty. Kepler Station is now under our control. All 47,000 civilians are hostages. Earth government has 72 hours to announce complete and unconditional surrender. Every hour of delay results in the execution of 100 hostages. Comply or watch your people die. The transmission went out across all frequencies. Grell sat back, confident that compassionate humans would break immediately. Their previous restraint proved they valued life. He would use that weakness to destroy them. Inside the assembly halls, terrified, families huddled together. Sovereignty troops patrolled with weapons ready. Children cried. Parents tried to offer comfort while drowning in their own fear. 3 civilians who attempted resistance were beaten publicly, bones broken, blood spilled on clean floors. The message was clear: obedience or pain. On Earth, emergency sessions convened. Political leaders argued. Military commanders calculated. Captain Davis attended via secure channel from Retribution, his expression grim but controlled. We cannot negotiate with terrorists, a senator argued. We cannot sacrifice 47,000 civilians, another countered. Davis listened to the debates, his mind working through tactical problems. Kepler Station was 3 weeks away by conventional drive. The hostages would be dead long before any rescue fleet arrived. Conventional rescue was impossible. Captain Davis, the Secretary of Defense, asked, "What are our military options?" Davis took a breath. "We have one option: experimental technology. Quantum tunnel drive theoretically can cross the distance in 4 days instead of 3 weeks. But the system has never been tested with a crewed vessel. Failure rate in simulations is 34%. The ship might not survive the jump." Silence filled the chamber. "You're proposing to risk an entire crew on untested technology," someone said. "I'm proposing to save 47,000 civilians," Davis replied. "Retribution's crew has already volunteered. All 800 personnel. We joined to protect people. This is what that means." 36 hours into the deadline, Grell began selecting victims for the first execution, targeting families, Maximum psychological impact. 100 people were dragged to the central plaza, forced to their knees. Firing squads assembled. The commander prepared to broadcast the deaths across the galaxy. Then every light on Kepler station went dark. Total power failure across all systems. Sovereignty weapons and armor stopped functioning. Communication equipment died. In the sudden blackness, hostages heard new sounds, precise footfalls, whispered commands in human languages. Something impossible was happening. Human special operations teams had materialized inside the station. 500 operators using teleportation technology the sovereignty didn't know existed. They moved through darkness with thermal imaging and sound dampening, carrying non-lethal weapons, executing the most dangerous rescue operation in human history. Sovereignty troops fumbled in the dark, their equipment useless, training worthless without functioning gear. Human operators disabled them with surgical precision, electromagnetic stun weapons, nerve agents that induced temporary paralysis. 2,000 enemy combatants neutralized in under 10 minutes. Not one killed, just rendered unconscious. Then the extractions began. Families disappeared in shimmers of displaced space-time, teleported directly to waiting rescue ships in orbit. Children vanished from their parents' arms only to reappear seconds later, safe aboard human vessels. The process took 20 minutes to evacuate all 47,000 civilians. Sovereignty troops could only watch helplessly as their hostages evaporated. Grell regained consciousness in an empty assembly hall. All civilians gone, all troops disabled. His mission a complete failure. He staggered to a viewport, saw 12 human warships surrounding the station, sovereignty cruisers already disabled, floating dead in space. Captain Davis broadcast directly to Grell's emergency channel. "Commander, you targeted civilians. You crossed a line we will not tolerate. Your ships are disabled. Your troops are detained, but we will not kill you. That would make us like you." The human fleet had arrived using quantum tunnel technology, crossing weeks of distance in days, then deployed teleportation teams, technologies the sovereignty had considered theoretical impossibilities. Humanity was revealing capabilities layer by layer, each more advanced than the last. Davis continued. "You will return to your leaders with a message. Earth will never submit, but more importantly, we now extend protection to any species suffering under sovereignty oppression. Any world, any people who call for help. Humanity will answer." The declaration was broadcast on all frequencies, intercepted across dozens of sovereignty-controlled systems. Ambassador Lyra heard it on Felner Prime. Her people had endured sovereignty rule for 80 years. Now someone offered protection, offered hope. Other species leaders received the transmission, considered the implications. Humans had defeated every sovereignty military deployment, shown they could project power across vast distances, demonstrated technology generations beyond anything known, and they were offering alliance. High Arbiter Kern watched the broadcast from Dominion Prime, understood immediately what it meant. Humanity had just positioned themselves as protectors of the oppressed. The entire empire now faced potential multi-system rebellion, backed by human technology and military power. Within days, messages began arriving at Earth. Felnari requesting formal protection, Tauran Confederation seeking alliance, Helion Republic begging for help, 17 species in total, all asking the same thing. Save us from the sovereignty. Earth government debated for 3 days. The decision would commit humanity to galactic politics, transform them from isolated species to major power. Captain Davis advocated for limited intervention. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Don't seek empire, just offer safety. The decision was made. Humanity would honor requests for protection. Human fleet divided into defensive groups, assigned to vulnerable worlds. Kern received reports of human ships deploying across former sovereignty territory, his empire crumbling as species after species requested protection. Military commanders reported morale collapse, troops refusing orders, some units defecting entirely, in rage and desperation. The High Arbiter made his final decision. If conventional force failed, if terror failed, one weapon remained: He ordered activation of the World Eater. The World Eater emerged from its hidden construction facility like a nightmare made real. 8 kilometers of weapons and armor, designed for one purpose: planetary genocide. Its gravitic torpedoes could destabilize a world's core, killing billions in cascading tectonic collapse. High Arbiter Kern had kept this vessel secret for decades, the ultimate deterrent. Now it would demonstrate what happened to species who defied the sovereignty. Target: Felner Prime, homeworld of Ambassador Lyris. People: population 2 billion. They had requested human protection 3 days ago. Now they would learn the price of rebellion. Captain Davis received the emergency transmission while Retribution orbited Earth. Felnari sensors had detected the massive vessel, calculated trajectory and speed. The World Eater would reach Felner Prime in 6 days. Conventional human response time: 8 days. The mathematics were impossible. 2 billion people would die unless something changed. Dr. Hassan appeared on Davis's screen, chief scientist for human propulsion research. Her expression troubled. "Captain, we can get you there in time. Quantum tunnel drive. But the risk, I know the risks." Davis interrupted. 34% failure rate. Ship might disintegrate during jump. "How soon can we install the drive?" 16 hours. "Do it." Retribution docked at Earth's orbital shipyard. Crews swarmed over the vessel, installing experimental technology that had never carried a living crew, removing non-essential equipment to reduce mass, upgrading weapons systems, preparing for battle against the most powerful warship ever constructed. Davis briefed his 800 crew members honestly, explained the risks, offered anyone who wanted to transfer off the ship. Not one person left. They had joined to protect people. This was what that meant. The quantum tunnel drive activated with a scream of tortured physics. Space tore open. Reality folded. Inside Retribution, time became fluid. Seconds felt like hours. Hours like seconds. Hull stress alarms wailed. But human engineering held. The ship survived what should have killed it. 4 days later, Retribution emerged near Felner Prime. Hull integrity at 78%. Crew shaken but alive. They had crossed weeks of distance and days. Arrived 2 days before the World Eater. Impossible mathematics solved through impossible technology. Ambassador Lyra wept when sensors confirmed human arrival. Her world had prepared for death. Evacuated cities. Said prayers. Accepted the inevitable. Now hope returned in the form of a single ship. The World Eater dropped from hyperspace right on schedule. Commander Voss commanding. A fanatic who believed the sovereignty represented divine order. His crew of 5,000 were all true believers, ready to kill billions for the glory of empire. One human ship, Vosk observed. They sacrificed themselves for primitives. Their compassion is weakness. Prepare gravitic torpedoes. Show them the price of defiance. Retribution. Broadcast a final warning. Commander Vosk, withdraw immediately. You will not harm this world. Vosk laughed. Ordered conventional weapons to fire first. Hundreds of particle beams and plasma torpedoes. Enough firepower to vaporize a mountain. Retribution's shields absorbed everything. The human vessel advanced, closing distance. For gravitic torpedoes launched, each designed to burrow into Felner Prime's mantle. Detonate simultaneously. Crack the planet like an egg. Davis had seconds to respond. Retribution accelerated to intercept, positioning itself in the torpedo's path. Gravitic shields expanded to maximum radius. 3 planet killers struck the field, redirected into empty space, detonated harmlessly. The 4th angled around the shield, heading for the planet. Davis triggered experimental kinetic interceptor, a projectile traveling at 40% light speed. It struck the gravitic torpedo 200,000 kilometers from Felner Prime. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Shockwaves rattled both ships, but the planet survived. Vosk screamed orders, attempting to ram the planet directly, using the World Eater's mass to trigger tectonic catastrophe. The massive ship accelerated toward Felner Prime. Retribution moved to intercept. Collision course locked. At the last moment, Davis activated humanity's final secret, quantum field generator. Localized space-time distortion that increased the World Eater's effective mass exponentially. The ship suddenly weighed more than a small moon. Propulsion could not compensate. Vosk's vessel dropped out of its attack trajectory, trapped in an artificial gravity well. "Surrender your ship," Davis broadcast. "Your crew will be treated well. Continue fighting, and we disable you permanently." Vosk refused, religious fanaticism overriding survival instinct. He ordered self-destruct, planning to take retribution with him. Davis released the quantum field for 1 second. The World Eater surged forward. Human ship unleashed. Electromagnetic disruption at point-blank range. Every system failed. The massive vessel went dark. Self-destruct canceled. 5,000 crew members alive but defeated. Human operators teleported aboard, secured the bridge, took Vosk into custody, disabled the gravitic weapons permanently. Fellner Prime celebrated. For 2 billion saved by one ship, one crew, one species willing to risk everything for strangers. Ambassador Lyra addressed her people, announced formal alliance with humanity, first of many species to join the protection sphere. News of the World Eater's capture spread across the galaxy. Sovereignty's ultimate weapon defeated by a single human vessel. Subjugated species saw the pattern. Humanity always won. Never killed unnecessarily. Always protected the weak. Resistance movements activated across 40 systems simultaneously. Sovereignty military commanders defected. Civil government collapsed. 3 centuries of tyranny crumbling in weeks. High Arbiter Kern barricaded himself in council chambers, but his own guards abandoned him. Commander Roth, now leading moderate faction, negotiated surrender terms. Kern would face trial. The Empire would dissolve peacefully. 6 months later, Galactic Tribunal convicted Kern of genocide, sentenced him to life imprisonment on a remote world, guarded by international peacekeepers. Justice without vengeance. Mercy even for the merciless. 43 species joined the Protection Alliance. Earth coordinated defense, but did not rule. Each world maintained sovereignty. Human technology shared freely for defensive purposes only. Former sovereignty territory rebuilt. Reparations paid from Imperial Treasury. War crimes tribunals continued, but no collective punishment. Only individuals judged for their actions. A memorial was erected on Dominion Prime, listing all victims of sovereignty tyranny across 3 centuries. Millions of names. Dedication read, "Never again will fear rule the stars." Captain Davis stood on Retribution's bridge, looking at Earth, considering what humanity had become. Not conquerors but defenders. Not empire but alliance. The galaxy learning to live without fear. Ambassador Lyra visited Earth as Felnari representative, met Davis in a quiet garden. "You changed everything," she said. "We just showed there was another way." Davis replied, "Power without cruelty. Strength without tyranny. The galaxy does not need rulers. It needs friends." 5 years passed. Galactic Council formed. Earth held one vote among 43. Democracy replacing autocracy. Human technology shared freely. Peace maintained through cooperation, not domination. The sovereignty was remembered only as cautionary tale. Proof that empires built on fear eventually fall. Humanity remembered as the species that deployed one warship and changed the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through compassion.